And welcome back. Gary Sutton Show on WRK. You can turn me up just a little bit on that if you wouldn't mind, Martin. But Martin Tate, our guest producer this week, sitting in for Mark McKenzie, who's on vacation. When I read this story last night, I was looking through some social media and it came across, and I thought, oh, really? Supporters of York High football coach Russ Stoner are expressing concern with the school board's apparent push to replace him tonight. At their school board meeting, apparently the agenda for the board's Wednesday night meeting shows a vote to approve the hiring of former Columbia and Eastern York coach Darryl Kyle to replace Russell Stoner. Now, Russ Stoner has been a mainstay at York High since 2016, but the school district of the city of York appears poised to replace William Penn High School football coach Russ Stoner over protests from his supporters. The agenda for Wednesday night's school board meeting indicates the board will vote to approve the hiring of York High grad Darryl Bud Kyle, the former head coach at Eastern York and Columbia, to replace Kyle on the Bearcats sideline. Kyle was a former assistant at Steelton High Spire and York High before he took over at Columbia in the 2017 season. In 5 years with the Crimson Tide, he guided Columbia to a 19-29 overall record, including an 8-2 campaign in his final season. That year, Columbia won the Lancaster-Lebanon League Section 4 title, its first section crown since 2002. Kyle then moved on to Eastern, where he led the Golden Knights to a 23-20 record in 4 seasons. The Knights went 2-8 in his first year, but posted records of 7-4, 8-3, and 6-5 since, including 3 straight District 3 playoff appearances. The board's apparent decision to move on from Stoner, who compiled a 62-41-1 overall record, 1 York Adams Interscholastic Athletic Association Division I title, and 8 District 3 playoff appearances and 8 winning seasons in 10 years at the helm, has created an outcry from his supporters. They credit him for turning York's program around and feel blindsided by the apparent rush to replace him and the push to replace him. A petition circulated on change.org titled Keep Russell Stoner as Head Football Coach, hashtag Team Stoner Forever, created by Stoner's daughter, Maddie, the head of aquatics at YMCA of the Roses, generated nearly 250 signatures within hours of its posting and was at 6:53 by Tuesday morning. For years, Coach Stoner has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to the student-athletes, families, and community of York, the petition reads. His leadership has extended far beyond wins and losses, shaping young people into responsible, disciplined, and successful individuals both on and off the field. 6 years ago, Coach Stoner faced significant challenges that threatened his position despite his dedication, accomplishments, and positive impact on the program. Rather than allowing adversity to define him, he responded with professionalism, perseverance, and a renewed commitment to the students he serves. He continued to show up every day for his players, staff, and community, focusing on mentorship, character development, academic success, and athletic excellence. Today, 6 years later, concerns are once again being raised despite the continued success and positive impact of his leadership. We believe it's important to evaluate his tenure based on documented results, proven accomplishments, and the experiences of the student athletes and families who have benefited from his dedication, not on rumors, politics, or outside narratives. Others took to social media to speak on behalf of Coach Stoner. One person said, Zai Shakir said, without Coach Stoner in York High football, I honestly don't know where I'd be right now, said Zai Shakir, a York High alum and former player. Coach helped save my life so much more than football. It's life skills, it's guidance, it's teaching young men to be great human beings. Football is the least that we focus on in the grand scheme of things. Coach Stoner is the best thing that's happened to York High football in the years I've known, said another former player, Dervell Wilson. He established a real plan and used actions. Also, it wasn't just talk. He helped us really believe in ourselves, but he would also be very realistic with us. The Bearcats, by the way, before Coach Stoner came, had struggled through 5 consecutive losing seasons prior to his hiring in 2016. And after a 1-9 campaign in his first year, Stoner led York High to a 9-2-1 finish and a YAIA Division I title in 2017. The Bearcats followed that up with an 11-2 campaign in 2019, finishing second behind Central York in the Division I race and making a second straight district playoff appearance. Prior to 2020 season, Stoner's job appeared to be in jeopardy when the board voted 6-2 with one abstention to retain him after a contentious meeting. Since then, Stoner has been retained on an annual basis, as is normal with most high school sports coaches. The Bearcats have had one losing season since 2020. They went 6-4 last season, falling in the first round of districts. Stoner supporters say they will march from York High Stadium over here at Smalls Athletic Field to the administration in support of Stoner ahead of Wednesday night's meeting. So they're going to have apparently a march tonight. Parents, alumni, and current players also plan to speak during the meeting to share what the program and Stoner has meant to them personally. So we'll see what comes out of that tonight, if anything. But apparently Coach Stoner is out, and Bud Kyle is going to be the new head coach at York High. And we're seeing a lot of this lately. We see Don Dimoff, longtime head coach who won over 600 games over at Red Lion, being let go recently without any real explanation. Here again, you have the same thing with Russ Stoner. Now at York High, who's been there for well over 10, almost 11 years now. And again, no explanation. And again, I know what administrations and boards hide behind the idea that it's a personnel thing. And yet at the same time, these people are public figures in terms of being coaches of teams and teams that have generally been pretty successful. And so, people want to know the answer as to why are they being let go? Is there something that happened? Was there an incident? Was there a trend? Was there something that was done wrong over a period of time? Those are all big questions that people are asking this morning, and particularly about Russ Stoner, who also started Accountability for Life, where he's helping people off the field as well and also helping athletes get scholarships to universities. When we come back, Jeff Coleman is the principal at Churchill Strategies, also the co-host of Morning Light on Lighthouse TV. He'll join us at 7:05 as we get a little bit more conversation in here on a Wednesday morning, all right here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, where it is 7 o'clock.
This is York's only local show on York's only local station. This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
Listen to your show every day. It's really good. I have you guys on every morning to wake up to.
Gary Sutton, mornings 6 to 9 on Sports Radio 98.9 FM and 1350 WOYK.
All the things you're talking about are all things we're talking about. It's Main Street America every day.
And you're getting your money's worth.
You're a brilliant mind, tremendous experience. You're great for the community.
The Gary Sutton Show on York's first station, WOYK.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show here on WOYK, where it is 7:05 on a Wednesday morning. Had a little awkward pause there. I was trying to find something on a website, and it would not cooperate with me. I know it's hard to believe, but it would not. And anyway, it did now. And this hour, of course, being brought to you by Your Medicare Solutions. You can find them at your-medicare-solutions.net. Keith and Becky Rill, who will not be on this week. They're on every other week, with answers to some of your Medicare questions, are the people who do all that. They educate people here in York County and the surrounding area. They answer all the various questions about Medicare, and there are a lot of them. I'm one of those guys that's on Medicare. And I'll tell you what, I'm one of those guys who's also stupid about it. For a long time, I sat pat on my Medicare program that I had. I said, I had it last year. It's the same thing. Not true. Not true. Because this year I went to Keith Rill. I said, hey, Keith, take a look at my Medicare program. See what you think. And he said, well, I think I can save you some money here on your prescription drugs. Did he ever? It took me 5 minutes, and he saved me $1,500 for the year. $1,500 for the year, or because I was saying, oh, yeah, it's the same as last year. Everything will be okay. Yeah, thanks. And he straightened me out in a hurry on that. So Keith and Becky Rill are your local Medicare specialists who will help you answer questions about Medicare and give you peace of mind and tell you about the very best plans for you and simple enrollment and some of the things you may not know about it. Yeah, I know it's hard to believe. We don't know something about everything, but we don't, okay? And they'll help you find the best Medicare health insurance plan that fits your needs, because a lot of our needs are different, right? You know, what's a Medicare Advantage plan? What's Medigap? How's all that work? Supplement plans. Prescription drugs, which I found out about in a hurry this year. When can I enroll in Medicare? Should I enroll in Medicare Part A or B? And B, those kind of things. So give them a call today at 717-487-4382. That's 717-487-4382, and they are ready to help you out. You can also email them at rill, R-I-L-L, at your-medicare-solutions.net. And it's that simple. Your-medicare-solutions.net. Keith and Becky Rill, the proud sponsors of this hour of the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. We check in this morning with Jeffrey Coleman, who is a principal at Churchill Strategies and also the co-host of Morning Light. I think he's back in the country for a few days. Good morning, Jeffrey. How are you?
For a few days. I am indeed back. I'm doing well. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah. So, I guess I want to ask you a question. And the question is this. When our founding fathers, we're talking about the 250th anniversary of our country, and it's coming up officially here on July 4th and all that.
Yeah.
You and I both read a lot about the founding fathers. You've gone to a lot of these places. I have too.
Yeah.
What do you think they were looking for in terms of this grand experiment called America? What do you think they were hunting for at that particular point? I mean, coming out of a war with Great Britain, getting freedom, not sure if they're going to make it. Other countries are kind of like vultures on a limb waiting for us to fall flat in our face. But what do you think they were looking for in terms of this whole grand experiment that they were putting together called the United States of America?
Well, I think for each individual, it's a complex story. The difference between a John Adams and a George Washington and a Thomas Jefferson and a James Madison are significant when it comes to what they wanted for their families. Some of them really valued big, families. Others really were more pious and wanted, the focus was on the ability to be free in your thinking. and your pursue the faith that you wanted to pursue. Others, it was economic. It was, and when I think part of one of the things you learn when you travel a bit, and not from the perspective of a tourist or a visiting traveler, but listening to people on the ground, is there, the people that you encounter who think and dream about America are really thinking about what does it mean to their family, and they're responding to some kind of pressure they're feeling. I got to be friends with a cab driver from Albania. We stay in touch online now, and he says he's working 23, 24, sometimes 25 hours, kind of the equivalent of of Red Bull, to stay awake during these long shifts.
Right.
And he's driving a cab that he's renting. Next year he'll go into the Albanian or the Greek military. He's a Greek citizen. And the idea is, even if he works 24-hour days, 5 or 6 days a week, which is about what he does, the maximum he'll be able to make is between $40,000 and $45,000 in an economy that's pretty bad, and the buying power is low. And he smokes a bit, so he's down to 11 months of income. And then when you add taxes, it keeps reducing and reducing. That, to know that he's rejected formal, organized religion in many ways. He's rejected a lot of the things his parents dreamed of, because the government continually, he feels this downward pressure of limits. And the idea of America for people all over the world is still, this is a place with no limits. I think the founders looked at it and said, this is a blank slate. And so we can course correct on some of the major ideas that allowed for a monarchy and limited freedom of expression and mobility and economic opportunity. So I think in some degree that was it. Yesterday was the anniversary of, I think it was yesterday, the day before, of the selection of George Washington as the leader of the Continental Army.
Unanimous, yeah.
And what were they looking for? They were looking for humility. They were looking for someone who was self-controlled and self-possessed. So the founders knew, the experiment only works if people have some modicum of self-control.
Right. And, Washington is such an interesting case because, I've always been a great believer. America's been lucky, and I think it's from a hand on high. But America has been lucky to have a certain person step into the breach at certain points in history. And never was there a guy who stepped into the breach better than a George Washington, who, by the way, showed up, I guess, at one of the meetings of the Continental Congress there with his uniform on to give a little idea of what he wanted as a job.
Right.
But, by the same token, Washington, by all accounts, was a very humble leader. A guy who said, I know who I am and I know how I'm seen, but by the same token, I also I'm confident in my abilities, and yet I also am humble enough to know it's not all about me. And this idea of humbleness, I find myself talking a lot about this with people lately, that we don't seem to still have that humbleness that I think made our nation great, that was exhibited by a George Washington at that time, is something that we seem to be missing from today. Do you have that same thought on that, Jeff?
Yes, absolutely. It is, for Washington, when you look at his life, part of the charm of Washington is that he didn't say a lot when he didn't need to say a lot. Didn't feel the need to constantly self-defend, self-promote.
Right.
And that is what others who had similar or higher qualifications in many areas. He wasn't the greatest military strategist. There were certainly deficiencies to Washington. But what they knew was that if he were promoted and advanced, they would not be cut out. They would still have the ability to contribute to the country, bring their intellect, bring their life skills, their knowledge, the thought power that many of these intellectual heavyweights brought to the revolution. So I think that's a really significant thing. We've got to make room for people. You've got to have leaders who are much more like quarterbacks, I think, in the future of our country if we're going to survive the experiment.
You know, it's amazing. I was reading, I'm reading this book about Washington and the people around him that helped to shape him as president. It's a fabulous book. But it talks about each of these individuals, like James Madison and John Adams, and, of course, Alexander Hamilton. And one of the things that's really fascinating to me is when these guys all started out in the Revolution, Washington was the old guy. He was 44.
Yeah, these were young.
Hamilton was 18. It's like having your 18-year-old son. It's like having Henry tell you how we're going to go out and shape the war. You know, even a couple years later, in their early 30s or late 20s, these people are the ones that were shaping our country. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you think about how smart these guys were and all the different things they brought to the table. Here you have a Hamilton who's coming and saying, well, I want this place to be more and more like England and more of a central authority. You got a guy like Madison who was with him in the beginning, and then Madison changed up and said, no, wait a minute, we need to have the states be in more control, and we need to have this Bill of Rights, and I need to go out there and Washington task him with getting the Bill of Rights through, and so you have all these different people doing all these different things, and you throw a Jefferson in there, and it was an amazing group of people who all came together at one time who helped to shape this into this unusual thing called America.
You've got to think that when you're not looking at architecture that's 300, 400, 500, 600 years old, and you're not in the old country, and you don't have streets that are paved, and you look out at fields or full forests that are unspoiled, you've got to think that when you're taking a walk in the morning, even at 17, 18, 19, 20, your imagination can run wild, and you have this ability to think brand new thoughts, or at least you have space for brand new thoughts and not have it crowded in by what you see. I think we're so limited because we're dealing within a system that we've known. So there's a level of comfort. We assume America will always be here for us. And this is, I think, what the idea of renewing the ideas of that founding generation constantly, perpetually, is important. But you almost have to close your eyes and turn off all distractions for a decent period of time to do that.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think we have to have a constant, how do I want to say this? A constant custodial feeling of making sure people are aware of where we've been, who we are, who some of these people are along the way, and what were the qualities that made us great, because I think we forget that sometimes when we don't do a good job of maintaining our history and letting people know where we are. Yeah, we are the custodians.
You look at the president and say, hey, it's your job to fix the reflecting pool. Hey, Mr. Mayor, it's your job to pick up the garbage, or councilwoman, your job. No, the experiment works at the lowest level when everyone is engaged in thick relational community, and we have the ability to say, hey, my neighbor is my job. This is my yard, but my neighbor, their concern is my concern. That's how it works.
Well, I tell you what, it's interesting to watch where this is all going right now, and we'll continue to talk about it along the way. What are you talking about this morning on Morning Light?
About 5 million children in America, at least at some point, have had a parent incarcerated, and obviously the vast majority of those are men. So on Father's Day, we're going to talk practically about what does it mean to be a dad when you're behind bars. And how can we rally to those men who want to be fathers so that when they come out, they're not strangers to their children? And I think there's some barriers that we can probably lower to make it easier to be a better dad from behind bars.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can watch it at 9 o'clock this morning on Channel 49, or go to Morning Light TV Live or morninglight.live.com. Jeff Coleman and Deborah Pinkerton do a great job, along with a great group up there at Morning Light. Jeff, always appreciate talking to you about things that matter, all here on the Gary Sutton Show on a Wednesday morning. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Have a great week. Take care. Jeff Coleman here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Check out morninglightlive.com. Great TV program every day, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daily Time right now. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got a lot more coming your way here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK, including Fox Sports just around the corner.
Fox Sports Update.
Lionel Messi. First career World Cup hat trick, ties the all-time goal-scoring record.
World Cup history on Fox TV Tuesday.
Well, he got his World Cup 4 years ago, and now he's out to get every other World Cup record and sits joint top with Miroslav Klose with his 16th World Cup goal and a hat trick. He's from another planet. Enjoy him while he's still playing. The best to do it, and he's showing you why.
On Fox TV, 38-year-old Lionel Messi of Argentina became the oldest player to score a hat-trick in the World Cup. This is record 6th World Cup. Argentina blanked Algeria 3-0 in Kansas City. Austria won its first World Cup match in 36 years, beat Jordan 3-1. Behind 2 goals from Kylian Mbappe, France defeated Senegal 3-1. Mbappe passed Just Fontaine for the most World Cup goals in France's history with 14. Behind 2 goals from Erling Haaland, Norway beat Iraq 4-1. Coming up at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Portugal plays the Democratic Republic of Congo in Houston on Fox. 3 hours later, another game in Texas in Arlington. England opens up against Croatia. 7 o'clock Eastern tonight in Toronto, it'll be Ghana versus Panama. 10 p.m. Eastern in Mexico City, Colombia plays Uzbekistan. Tomorrow, the New York Knicks will celebrate their first NBA championship in 53 years with the ticker tape parade along the Canyon of Heroes in Manhattan. The Knicks series clinching win over the Spurs Saturday turned out to be the highest-rated NBA Finals game since 1998. NHL Vegas Golden Knights will have a new coach next season. John Tortorella, whose contract runs through June 30th, will not return. He had taken over the team with 8 games left in the regular season and led them to the Stanley Cup Final. It's Game On with the Fox Sports app, available wherever you download apps. I'm Jared Max.
Get more on the Fox Sports app and foxsports.com.
You know, Lionel Messi for Argentina had supposedly had a hamstring injury. Apparently, he's also had some other things happen in the last few days, and then that's why he had tears in his eyes after his first goal. And then he scored 2 more last night. His 39th birthday is approaching next week, by the way, which is old on a soccer team. So Messi moved into a tie with Germany's Miroslav Klose. Is it Klose? Is that the way you say his name? Klose, for the career scoring record at the Men's World Cup. You have a feeling that he might break that sometime during this the upcoming games. He said, "My tears after the first goal, I've had some tough days. It wasn't related to football, and those feelings were because of that," Messi said afterward without elaborating. "I thank my teammates, the coaching staff, and the delegation for helping me." So Messi, still the big name there in soccer as we continue on with the World Cup. And, Argentina moving on last night. I was looking here this morning. Greatest inventions ever. I would offer this up for a nomination, this next one. And I told Martin about this morning. Martin Tate, who's sitting in for Mark McKenzie today as our guest producer this week. Some people aren't comfortable with AI, and admittedly so. And there's reasons for that. And obviously AI can have some very negative things. And we're probably, they're weird about having AI-powered robots. But what if I told you they could help you when you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night? This may be the greatest invention ever, especially as you get older. A Chinese company unveiled a smart toilet which can drive itself to you and navigate around obstacles even at 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning when you're having trouble dodging laundry baskets and dog toys on your way to the bathroom. It's simple. You use an app to call it over. When it arrives, you hop on, do your business. It takes care of cleaning things up with a built-in bidet system, and then it goes back to its docking system to clean itself. Is this not like the greatest invention ever? Forget the wheel, forget fire. Here it is. The movable toilet that comes over to your bed and meets you in the middle of the night. I don't know, Martin. I think this might be it. I think, this is the big one. This is the one we've been waiting for.
I need this one immediately.
The docking station is hooked up to your plumbing, so it could release its whatever's in there and flush it away. It also has a low noise grinder that prevents any kind of unwanted blockages, which is not a mental image I really needed. Now, the thing wouldn't be cheap now. The price is around $13,000, but unfortunately, it's not available in the United States yet, and there's no timetable for that. And to be clear, the robot toilet is designed primarily for older people or those with disabilities or mobility impairments, not lazy people who want to just go to the bathroom by their bedside, like we would be, and have a robot flush it away. But it is, I'm just looking at the picture of it here, it's rather cool. I mean, the movable bathroom toilet that comes over to your bed and you don't have to get out and you just kind of get in and then, go back to sleep. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that this morning here on the Gary Sutton Show. And something else that's big in terms of, stuff that's movable. How about the electric scooters? Electric scooters are not legal in Pennsylvania. A lawmaker wants to change that. Electric scooters are everywhere, in case you haven't noticed, despite not being legal anywhere in Pennsylvania. State law prohibits riding e-scooters on public roadways and sidewalks. Representative Emily Kincaid, who's a Democrat of Allegheny, has a bill that aims to allow the type of shared scooter programs common in cities. If passed, municipalities would help regulate these programs, she said. It would look kind of like Pittsburgh's successful pilot program, which 212,000 people signed up for over 2 years. Lots of people have these e-scooters, but it's just people don't know that they're not actually street legal. And there's no real enforcement framework to having an e-scooter and riding it when you're not supposed to. So law enforcement has been asking us to actually give them the tools to be able to provide enforcement. So this bill would kind of lay out the rules on where they can go, where they can't go, what they need in terms of licensing and things like that. So we'll see if any of that helps and if it even comes to pass. But e-scooters are everywhere. There is no doubt about it. And if you've had anybody come close to running you down with one, then you probably would like to see some kind of rules happen here along the way. When we come back, Tim Barker is our district attorney of York County, and he's going to join us to talk about a law that was passed this week in Pennsylvania. It's one that it has to do with skill games. And these skill games, are they really skill games or are they gambling games? And if so, it's going to have a big change on that industry. And Tim's going to get into some of that when he joins us here on the Gary Sutton Show with a point of law at 7:35. All straight ahead on WOYK. It is 7:30. like a good piano riff. I like this. Not sure what it is.
This is Outcast again.
Okay. Okay, I'll buy. You know, it's funny. I never heard this song. I don't know how I missed it, but I never heard it.
It's not as popular as some of their other songs on the album because this is the same album as Hey Ya, So Fresh, So Clean.
Yeah.
So
Hey Ya, So Fresh, So Clean. Not a lot of word memorization there. Anyway, welcome back to Gary Sutton Show, brought to you by Your Medicare Solutions, your-medicare-solutions.net. Keith and Becky Rill are your Medicare specialists here in the York County area. I mean, I'll tell you what, they have been educating people by the thousands, and they are ready to help you today. They'll explain what Medicare is, how it works, your personal options. There are so many questions that come up with Medicare a lot of times, and you need to find answers. So where do you go? You go to Your Medicare Solutions, your-medicare-solutions.net, and Keith and Becky will take time to explain to you how it all works. It doesn't cost you anything. No, it does not. And you can find out the answers you need because some of that your insurance there might be costing you a lot more than it needs to. So Keith and Becky Rill are the people to call. Give them a call today and tell them I sent you at 717-487-4382. That's 717-487-4382. Or email them at rill, R-I-L-L, at your-medicare-solutions.net. And don't be a fool like I was, where you said, my Medicare's the same as it was last year. Everything's okay. I did that for a few years. I got to tell you something. I went to Keith Rill this year to check out my Medicare program and see how I was doing and see if there were anything better that he saved me $1,500 alone on prescription drugs. $1,500 for the year. So I got $1,500 more to spend this year than I had last year because I was an idiot last year. But this year I went and got the information from people who know what the information is. Keith and Becky Rill at Your Medicare Solutions. Check them out today. Give them a call, 717-487-4382, or go to Rill on email at your-medicare-solutions.net. You'll be glad you did. They are helping a lot of people here in the York and York County area. WOYK News Time is 7:36. With that this morning, we bring in the District Attorney of York County. He is Tim Barker here on the Gary Sutton Show. Good morning, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How's it going, Gary?
Doing pretty well. Martin is, doing a good job here this week for Mark McKenzie. We haven't put Mark on waivers yet, but it might be trade bait by the end of the week. Who knows? But no, it's Martin's doing a good job. But great to have you aboard this morning. So I'm reading this thing about skill games and the courts this week, and they made a ruling regarding skill games that may change the way you can take part in these at, convenience stores and things like that. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, so, to an extent, this opinion has been waited on for a long, long time. This litigation has been going on for years and years and years. And so finally we have an opinion now, made its way up to the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, and finally we have an opinion. And this is, and as you know, I'm a prosecutor, but also a law nerd. And this is a law nerd's dream opinion because it all involves statutory construction. And it crosses over with such things as we get a little great Latin with in para materia when statutes relate to the same purpose or things. We get ourselves such things as the Oxford comma rears its ugly head, even though it doesn't fully call it that, but it is what they're referring to with the series qualifier and with the last antecedent rules and all kinds of stuff like this, which basically all boils down in this way. You got two laws. And these came out of two separate actions under each of the two laws. You got the Crimes Code, which essentially says that unlawful gambling is a misdemeanor of the first degree. And it's been around for a long while, and under it, it lists slot machines and also any device to be used for gaming purposes. And so for years, what they would take a look at under that law was what they called the predominant factor test. And what you're doing is you're comparing, hey, does the machine provide consideration, meaning you pay something in and you get a reward at the end if you win, and the result is determined by chance rather than skill. And so you take a look and you say, well, what was the predominant factor in winning? If it was chance, then it's an illegal gambling device. If it is skill, then it's not. And this is where the whole skill game concept came about. Well, the Gaming Act, when we went and expanded for the regulation of casinos and things such as that, this whole statute was created. An exception that is specifically put in as to where the crime under the Crimes Code does not apply includes anything determined to be lawful under the Gaming Act. So we create the gaming board, we regulate casinos, we do all that kind of stuff, and it's all listed under there, and there are things legally you can do, and there are prohibitions in there regarding what you can sell and manufacture if you are unlicensed. So all these issues came about then as to the creation of this skill game, which is essentially random tic-tac-toe with, as a rider, follow me is what it's called in the machines, which is essentially a game of Simon. If you remember the old visual game Simon, the electronic game, so it's essentially that. And if you successfully complete Simon, which takes forever to do, you could get, I think it was like $1.05 back on the dollar spent. So they tried to say that this makes it a skill game rather than it being a slot machine. And in 2014, a trial court found it to be such in Beaver County. In response to it, in 2017, the legislature in the Gaming Act specifically included skill games, they called them skill slot machines, or hybrid slot machines, under the definition of slot machine in the Gaming Act. So there's no confusion. It's very clear that they fall under that under the Gaming Act. So a couple things wound up happening. The Department of Revenue wound up suing manufacturers of the games to go ahead and get clarification that, in fact, they are slot machines subject to regulation, and therefore you can't have them just pop up everywhere, which was now happening due to the Beaver County court case, and they were marketing it as being legal to put anywhere. At the same time, in Dauphin County, there was a seizure of these games under the Crimes Code because there's a forfeiture provision. They seized it from an establishment, and they go ahead and they try to forfeit them. What wound up happening in both of them, first, under the Gaming Act, they determined, well, it's a slot machine under the Gaming Act. The Commonwealth Court did. Slot machine under the Gaming Act. However, this applies to those essentially that are licensed. It all deals, Gaming Act deals with licensed places.
And these aren't licensed, right? I mean, these are unlicensed.
Yeah, they're unlicensed. So therefore, the Gaming Act doesn't apply to these because they're unlicensed. So there's no regulation from the Gaming Act that applies, but it still could possibly be illegal. Go over to the forfeiture case, and the Commonwealth Court held, well, we can't apply the definition of slot machine under the Gaming Act. They're two different statutes. Don't read them together, despite the nice little Latin that we said. And we're going to find they're skill games, so they're not illegal. What did that leave? It meant that any place could go ahead and could operate these machines, and there's no regulation, there's no control, there's no nothing, because it's a slot machine but not a slot machine.
So then here comes the Supreme Court then, and you get like Justice David Weck, who writes a majority opinion that skill games are slot machines, quote unquote, several times over, meeting multiple legal definitions, therefore they're subject to the same regulation as traditional slot machines, right?
Yeah, and that's correct. And that's where one of the first things they did was they took a look, and they're like, Commonwealth Court, you're reading the Gaming Act and you're reading the Crimes Code as being two separate ships passing in the night that have nothing to do with each other. And they're like, that's completely wrong. And they applied, the fancy Latin term that I mentioned, impera materia. They applied, they're like, we don't even really need to go that far. but it does apply where, they're to be read in concert with each other. They reference, the Crimes Code specifically references the Gaming Act, and slot machine is identified there. They deal with the exact same subject. So the definition of slot machine under the Gaming Act applies to the Crimes Code. And so therefore, these are slot machines, and they're not licensed. If you're not licensed to be doing your operation, it's illegal under the Crimes Code, and it's a misdemeanor of the first degree. One of the great lines in the whole opinion, and I really admire, first of all, Pennsylvania State Police have been on this and really working on this for a long time and really going like, this is legally absurd. But then you have the Attorney General's office in their brief. They made a comment regarding the follow me, and it was cited by Justice Wecht. Follow me isn't there for the players. It's there for the lawyers.
Yeah.
And that is a perfect comment, because it is. It's totally, and you can tell, it's totally something that, from a legal standpoint and legal argument, was meant to circumvent the law.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court shut it down. Now, they gave a 120-day stay on this,
right,
which is really, really important, because all of these businesses have now relied upon this so thoroughly. And so now, today, you wake up and all that they thought was legal is now a crime.
And of course, now it gives the state time to address what to do next with that 120 days, as opposed to cold turkey, which would be a mess, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't want to have law enforcement, have prosecutors without any ability to act or react, to go ahead and say, today now we're knocking down your door and we're seizing all of your machines
right,
and money from it. That's absolutely unfair. So the 120-day stay was really, really, really important to have in this case. So now it's up to the legislature. And the Pennsylvania District Attorneys Association, from our perspective, the number one thing that we wanted, and why this was always such a big issue, we had to have clarity. What was legal and what was illegal?
Right.
Well, we have that now from the Supreme Court case. And the ask from the legislature is always, and from the courts, we're not telling you what to make legal, what not to make legal, how to regulate, how not to regulate. Just give us some well-defined answers on what to do.
Yep.
And from there, that will allow us to further protect the public, because these are a lot of cash businesses, and so a lot of robberies and a lot of crime happen in places where they're having these machines that are not licensed and regulated facilities, and it really has led to an increase in harming public safety by not having any standards or any protection. So this is great. It's a great case, provides clarity, and boy, can you work in more law nerd stuff? I mean, it is as geeky as it gets, but it's great.
I tossed a buffet table to you this morning, my friend, but great job handling it as always. We'll see what the state comes up with in terms of what to do next and how to carry this out, because that's going to be the very next step. I'm sure we'll be on top of that as well. Tim Barker, our district attorney for York County. Tim, thanks so much. Always enjoy having you on every Wednesday morning. You always tell us about some things that we really didn't understand. I understand a lot more right now. Thank you, my friend.
Yep. Hey, thank you, Gary. Have a great week.
Have a great week. Tim Barker, district attorney for York County, here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Still more to come on that, as the Supreme Court stayed its order for 120 days. It'll give the state time now to address what to do next. And the court asked lower courts to issue future rulings in accordance with Monday's opinion. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got a lot more coming your way. Lots of interesting news happening all around you right here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Sounds like country music.
Not quite.
Should stay, I would hope.
Now, we think about this song, normally we think about Whitney Houston singing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is
from Bodyguard. And
you hear I Will Always Love You, and it's the Whitney Houston version,
but
obviously.
But didn't Dolly Parton write this?
This is a Dolly Parton original song, which actually came out on this day in 1973.
Yeah. And then in the movie The Bodyguard, Whitney Houston sings this song, and it kind of became hers, even though Dolly Parton wrote it. So there you go.
It's Dolly Parton's song, but yeah, it's Whitney Houston's song.
Yeah, Dolly Parton. I never have really decided how much I liked her singing. It was okay, but Dolly Parton created this unbelievable character. I think, and has you get all kinds of feelings about Dolly Parton, from the standpoint of she's lovable, she's seems to be a gracious lady, a pretty smart businesswoman, and and a great entertainer by all accounts. So and an actress. So she got into a lot of different fields, but certainly merchandised herself very, very well over the years. Speaking of merchandising yourself well, how about Elon Musk? He officially became the world's first trillionaire on June 12th, just last week, following the highly anticipated initial public offering, the IPO, of his space and IA company, SpaceX. The skyrocketing value of his shares across SpaceX and Tesla pushed his net worth over the $1.1 trillion mark. 1.1, I think it's up to 1.3 now. A $1 trillion net worth is an unprecedented milestone in human history, putting his wealth on par with the entire gross domestic product of some of the world's largest nations. For some context, here you go. The SpaceX IPO, the initial public offering, SpaceX began trading on the NASDAQ with an initial stock price of $135 a share. $135 a share. His newly surging net worth is anchored by a $690 billion stake in SpaceX and roughly $279 billion from Tesla, the car company that he owns. Musk's fortune is so vast that it exceeds the wealth of the next four richest people combined. How's that? The next four richest people combined, that's Elon Musk's wealth. Now, we asked a question this morning at Gary Sutton Show on Facebook. Should there be a limit on how much personal wealth one person can accumulate? I was reading an article on that this morning, and they said there's one person who you won't hear complaining about grocery store prices, Elon Musk, who became the world's first trillionaire. He's worth $1.3 trillion, which means he has $1 trillion more than the next richest people, Larry Page and Sergey Brin of Google, who are worth about $300 billion. A poll asked Americans, should there be a legal limit on how much personal wealth one person can accumulate? I was interested in the answer on this. More than 7,500 people weighed in, and 30% said yes, there should be a limit. A whopping 51% said no, and 20% aren't sure. On one hand, the American capitalist way is allowing hardworking people to amass as much wealth as they want. But at the same time, it runs counter to your desire to get a raise, keep your job, or be hired, right? Because maximizing wealth is paying others as little as possible, some people say. For what it's worth, when asked about Elon specifically, 32% of people said he deserved to have $1 trillion, 51% said he didn't, 70% said they're not sure. So does having insanely rich people benefit regular folks at all? The poll also asked, do people with $100 billion or more generally contribute more to society than they take away from it, or do they take more than they contribute? 24% said they add more than they take, but 53% said they take more from society than they contribute. And that's the perception that people have, unfortunately. What about you? Do you think that there should be a limit on how much you can make? You can answer that question this morning at Gary Sutton Show on Facebook. And finally, I came across this list today, Martin, of the top 5 signs you're way too rich. Little tongue-in-cheek look at how rich you are. For example, the last time you dropped your wallet, it killed 37 people. Okay, that would be a sign that you're probably too rich.
I'm 0 for 1.
There you go. You have a Picasso in storage because it clashes with your Rembrandt.
I'm 0 for 2.
Yeah, so there it is. Instead of a hat, T-shirt, or pennant, you come home from a Dodgers game with the Dodgers. Okay, you bought them. That's when you know you're too rich. Okay.
Hey, didn't Magic Johnson do that?
There you go. You have Spotify Ultra Premium, where bands come to your house and play. Okay, that's what happens. You probably are too rich.
Now, Travis Kelce did that one.
Thank you. You're probably too rich. Thanks to all the zeros in your bank balance, your ATM receipt is almost as long as a CVS receipt. Almost. Okay, you ever get a CVS receipt? Oh, my gosh. When your kid turned old enough to drive, you bought her a Saturn, the planet, not a car, the planet, yeah.
As if the car isn't expensive enough.
Thank you. You probably are too rich. You hunt the poor for sport. Today's victim, Elon Musk. Okay, there you go. Here's another one. You own a private island where a lot of famous people will get in trouble for visiting someday. Ooh, bad one. Anybody say Epstein on that one? And finally, you're probably too rich if you can afford gas. Prices are coming down a little bit, but yeah, there you have it. So all that right here on the Gary Sutton Show today. Little tongue-in-cheek look at Elon Musk this morning, the first trillionaire. Oh, my gosh. Well, when we come back, we're going to check in with Patrick Ball. I was with Patrick last night at the Life Path Ministry annual meeting out at, let's see, what were we at? Old Main East at the York Expo Center. And we're going to talk about some new numbers that came up that kind of floored me last night. And we'll tell you all about that with Life Path. Then Julie Wheeler, President and Commissioner of the York County Commissioners, gets into what is coming up here in York County all straight ahead on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK right after news. At the top of the hour, it is 8 o'clock.
This is York's only local show on York's only local station. This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
Listen to your show every day. It's really good. I have you guys on every morning to wake up to.
Gary Sutton, mornings 6 to 9 on Sports Radio 98.9 FM and 1350 WOYK.
All the things you're talking about are all the things we're talking about. It's Main Street America every day.
And you're getting your money's worth.
You're a brilliant mind, tremendous experience. You're great for the community.
The Gary Sutton Show on York's first station, WOYK.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
Yeah, if you were a coach, you use that. I mean, Mel Gibson as William Wallace doing your pep talk before the game, right? It may take our lives, but it'll never take our freedom. You know, just kidding. Yeah, I thought that would be a great motivator. By the way, speaking of motivators, I saw Russ Stoner out, at least for now, as the York High head coach. They're going to hire Bud Kyle tonight as the new head coach over there. And a number of people at York High apparently upset about this, as Coach Stoner, who started Accountability for Life. He's had winning seasons, all but I think one at York High since he was hired in 2017, and has done really a great job there. I know Coach Stoner pretty well, and a guy who really has dedicated himself to the York High program, has a winning record there over that period of time. I think 62-41-1. And he is apparently out. They're going to have a march tonight, I understand, from Smalls Athletic Field here at the stadium over to the York High, at the William Penn board meeting tonight, right there in town. They're going to have a march from there over to support Coach Stoner. There's a petition going around. I think it has 650-some signatures at last count. So we'll see what comes out of that. But we're seeing a lot of that lately. You saw, mentioned Coach Dimoff the other day from Red Lion, who was let go. Coach Stoner now, who's being his contract's not being renewed. That's what the board's do now. And yet there's not really an explanation as to why. I know they boards and administration say, well, it's a personnel matter. And it is. But by the same token, also because these people are public figures, in terms of being very much out there in front of people, coaching teams. People want to know why. Why would you let go of someone who is dedicated to your program? Coach Dimoff to Red Lion and Coach Stoner here to York High. I hope something will be coming out on that in days to come. Do want to thank Your Medicare Solutions for being a sponsor of last hour of the Gary Sutton Show, your-medicare-solutions.net. And Keith and Becky Rill are ready to help make your answers to Medicare a reality now. And they've been doing that for thousands of people here in York County, educating people about Medicare, when to enroll, what to enroll for, Medicare Advantage plans, supplement plans, prescription drugs, all of that. They've helped me. I am definitely a client. It doesn't cost you anything. They can give you the answers, and it will not be any cost to you. How's that? So if you have questions about Medicare, there's only one place you need to go. Call 717-487-4382. That's Keith and Becky Rill, R-I-L-L, 717-487-4382, or email them at rill@your-medicare-solutions.net, or go to their website at your-medicare-solutions.net. Keith and Becky Rill are ready to help make those answers become your reality today. Our premier sponsor, The Gary Sutton Show, with you here this morning, kindnessworldwide.org, and Stein & Sparler, attorneys at law, 117 East Market Street, right here in York. So glad to have them aboard. Our back nine text line is open at 833-478-4729. You can answer the question today. When does someone have too much money? Should there be a limit? We were talking about Elon Musk having $1.3 trillion now. He's a first trillionaire. He has more money than the next four people combined behind him. That's how rich this guy is. So is there something wrong with that? That's a big question. And we could talk about that. But Patrick Ball would not be. I think Patrick Ball is number 5 on the list. He is the head of Life Path Ministries, and also he's a CEO there, and also over at the York Fair. Good morning, Patrick. How are you?
Morning, Gary. Doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Well, I'm doing very well. But Patrick and I got to hang out last night at the annual dinner of the Life Path Christian Ministries. It was over at Old Main East, right there at the York Expo Center. And to say that it was an enjoyable night would be an understatement. To say it was an informative night would be an understatement, Patrick. But you had a chance to honor some people last night, but also talk about what Life Path is doing. And I was stunned last night at some of the 2026 figures that came out. Talk a little bit about the evening last night from your particular perspective.
Sure. I mean, from my perspective, it was just an incredible evening, right? Incredible evening of celebration. We were able to look back, and it's always good to take a step back every once in a while, I think, especially for our team, and reflect on the accomplishments of the prior year. And you're right, to talk about where we are currently with the numbers that we're seeing and some of the increases in meals and shelter nights and those types of things are up. But then also, as you mentioned, we were able to honor the Kinsley Family Foundation for their incredible support in helping us with our new project. And then ultimately, we had a couple of dedicated board members who kicked off our public phase of our capital campaign, which we're really excited about. So overall, it was an incredible evening. We appreciate you taking your time to MC and really keep us on track. And I did notice that we ended exactly right on time.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal with me. I like to keep the whip out. No, I'm kidding. It just worked out that way. We got lucky. But no, I was learning a lot just sitting there listening last night. And you gave us some stats earlier in the year about what Life Path is doing and how many people you're serving, how many guests, for example, you're serving in the community. But you keep on saying, well, this is going to be the high water mark this year, 2024. And 2025 comes and it's higher. 2026, obviously there are a lot of people in need in our community and people need a hand up. And Life Path is providing that. But tell people some of the numbers compared to the 2025, 2024 years and what we're doing for people here in York County. And one of the points that you made last night, too, and I'm asking you really two questions at once. One of the points you asked last night, you said, well, a lot of people think this is just like a city problem. It's not. I think you said you served someone from every zip code here in York County over the years. So this is not a predominantly city kind of thing. It's a county kind of thing. And I wanted to kind of address those two areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And the numbers we're seeing, I think, as an example, we're seeing meals up 6.4%, right? And we're tracking as we look at that because we kind of use that as our main barometer as to what's happening in the broader community. And with those being up, we will top 150, if not 160,000 meals if we continue at this pace for this year. And again, those are just record numbers. But I think that's a real bellwether of what's happening in the community, right? The meals, I think as we view it, is one of those ways to kind of gauge, if people have limited resources and they have to buy medicine, pay their rent, or buy food, if we're giving them the opportunity to defer some of that and redeploy some of those assets into medicine and rent, right? They can accommodate the increased rent because we're able to give them, 10 meals a week, which over the course of the month could add up to a couple hundred, if not $300 or $400.
Right.
That keeps them in their homes, right, and prevents homelessness. So we view the meal ministry as really one of those things that not only does it fill an immediate need, but it also hopefully helps prevent homelessness as it is. So,
Patrick, one of the things that you said last night that really stunned me. You said a lot of people who find themselves in situations where they're homeless or they're in need of a meal or in need of some kind of help have been pretty much middle class most of their lifetimes. And now you get to be like 55 and older, which is one of the biggest groups you're seeing grow in the community. And all of a sudden, the costs of living, the costs of doing stuff, you're on fixed income, for example, all of a sudden they force you into a situation where you have to face some of these realities. And people don't know what to do because they've never had to do that at all. Talk about that aspect a little bit, too, because I thought that was a big point you brought out last night.
Yeah, consistently we've seen over the past 3 years, a full third of the people that we serve are what we call first-time homeless, people that have never been in the system before, people that never interacted with our agency before. And, when you've got that, and again, people are showing up and, literally saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to navigate the system. Obviously, there's the group of folks who, are really good at navigating the system. They understand where resources are. They understand how to do that. But this group that we're seeing, again, the full third that's new to homeless, as we call it, is they just don't know what to do. And so that requires more effort on the part of our case managers and our team to really help dig into it, make sure they're comfortable in what is can be a very intimidating or scary situation, and helping them work through it, right? And I think that's really part of the difference. As we talk about the recidivism rate and some of the things that we've talked about in the past, is helping people through the process. Number one, with less trauma. Number two, as quick as possible, and then number three, with dignity, right? And so that when people get to the other side, they're well prepared to be on their own.
Patrick, I wanted to end today. You told the story of a 4-year-old last night, and it was. I think you're going to drop the pin in the room after you told this story. You looked at me and said, "What time is it on the clock?" And he said, "I have one more story to tell." And this story, I thought, was the most poignant one of the evening last night. We just talked about 55 plus. Now you go to the other end of the spectrum to young people, and you have young people that show up at the door now and then. Tell the story of the 4-year-old that came across last night that you had a chance to see, because it was pretty poignant.
Yeah, so we had a young family come in, mom, dad, and a 4-year-old, and mom and dad were very concerned about coming into a shelter. What impact it would have on their child. Would their child be safe? Would they be safe? And those kind of things. And the person who was doing the intake, again, reported this back to the team. And the child, the 4-year-old, said, I don't want to take a bath in the sink at Taco Bell anymore, and I don't want to sleep in the parking lot at Taco Bell anymore.
Yeah.
And that's happening across our county. That's happening. Estimated 50 to 60 individuals or families are sleeping in their vehicles at any given time in York County, and so that's a big deal, right? And that's really our why. No 4-year-old, and really no one, but especially when you look at a 4-year-old, should be bathing in the Taco Bell bathroom and having to sleep in their car in the parking lot. So that's the reason we're here, right? And I really just wanted to drive home. It's great, all the things that we've done, but when you look at them aggregated, they're huge numbers, but each of those numbers has an individual story, and some of those stories are really heartbreaking.
And one of the great things last night, too, about LifePath and what you guys are doing with your ministries is the idea you can take a tour right now of the brand new facility, and you love taking the people on those tours. I know. Kevin Smith just went the other day. I'm looking forward to having a tour soon on that. I've seen the other facility, but I want to see the new one coming up. But for people who want to take a look at facilities and maybe who want to get involved with LifePath or help to fund in the capital campaign, where can they go? What do they do to arrange a tour?
Yep, just go to the website. You can send us an email, info at lifepathyork.org, or you can go to the website. There's places there to learn about volunteering and donating and all of that kind of stuff.
And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd have seen all the volunteers out there last night and all the people talk about being sincere and totally passionate about what they're doing, you've never seen a more dedicated group. It was really raised my energy level last night to see all the goodness that was gathered right there at the York Expo Center last night at the annual meeting of the LifePath. They do a great job. LifePath.org. Check it out today, lifepathministries.org. Patrick, thank you for taking time to be with us this morning. Really, really important stuff, and we look forward to next week, my friend.
Hey, I appreciate you. Thanks so much, Gary.
Thanks,
care,
buddy. Take care. Patrick Ball, head of LifePath Ministries. What a great program it was last night to be able to be out there and see all of what these people are doing and see all the various programs they're doing to help people here with a hand up and get them back on their feet and get people back into good situations here in the community. And they are out there helping, and they're going to the root causes of what's happening with a lot of people. And isn't that what we're all about? Find out the root cause of why people get into some of the situations they get into and deal with that. And that's what they do at LifePath. Their recidivism rate is down so much. It's incredible to see some of the numbers this year where the recidivism rate of people coming back are less and less and less. So they're very responsible about how they use the resources that they get. I think it's just a tremendous program here in our community. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got a lot more news coming your way, including some of the news you might have missed and some of the other things happening around you here on the main street of York and York County. Any main street you live on is where we live. Here in York County, it's the Gary Sutton Show, the voice of York County, right here on WOYK.
Here's the 0-1, and a swing and a rip. It's a fair ball down the third base line. Blackwell scores. Rosario coming in right behind him. Devontae into second with a 2-run double. And the Revs have struck first tonight. It's 2-0. And that has to feel like a huge boulder off his back. Pitch, he swings and belts one deep to right field. Watch this one go. Line drive home run. Jacob Teeter could walk around the bases this time if he wants to. His 10th of the year. And on a missile, the Revs get that run back. It's 3-1. Shreve delivers. Swinging a ground ball to first. One hop teeter. Throws to short. Blackwell back. It is a double play. 3-6-3 double play. And Ryan Shreve gets him out of the seventh. He has now gone 7 1/3 innings without a hit. His last 7 appearances. Comes up big with the double play here tonight. 3-hole hitter on deck. Here's the stretch, the payoff. Swinging a fly ball right center. Looks to be playable. Tomo is over. Devontae Brown is over, and Devo puts it away. In deep right center, Brown had it all the way. And the Revs return home with their 7th consecutive win at Wellspan Park. And Josh Malaris gets it done in the 9th. Save number 3 for him, and he saves it for Rhett Koba, who was outstanding. And the Revs win tonight 4-2 as they sort of beat the Blue Crabs a little bit at their own game, it seems.
And the Revs winning last night in the first of a 6-game series with the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs, who had the best record in the league. Coming in, they were on a 3-game winning streak. The Revs dropped, and the Revs have won 3 of their last 4, 7 in a row here at home. And they'll be at it again tonight at 6:10 airtime when Daryl comes on the air. And 6:30 will be first pitch, and the Revs looking to continue their winning ways tonight as a big win last night, 4-2 over the Blue Crabs. Hey, stay comfortable on a long drive this summer. On a long drive, a working air conditioner is not just nice. It helps you to stay comfortable and focused. And if it's not blowing cold or your engine temperature seems higher than normal, have it looked at before you travel. And you can do that at Jack Giambalvo family of dealerships, and they'll help to keep you cool and confident on the road. Jack Giambalvo family of dealerships wants to be your perfect road trip companion this summer. And your perfect road trip companion is waiting for you right now at Jack Giambalvo, whether it's in a new car or maybe a pre-owned car. And they've got pre-owned cars for you right now that are absolutely ready for your road trip. SUVs for the family, trucks for adventure, sedans for the daily drive. Wherever the road takes you, they've got the vehicle to get you there. And you know what else? They have a hassle-free, pressure-free approach. It's easy to find a car you love when you don't have someone breathing down your neck every 2 seconds, right? They're out there to help you, and they're ready to make your next ride a reality today. And when you buy pre-owned at Jack Giambalvo, you get free lifetime PA state inspections for you and anybody in your household. How's that for starters? And then a 3-month, 3,000-mile warranty included on most pre-owned vehicles. And finally, the confidence in knowing that your vehicle is going to go through a rigorous inspection to ensure it's roadworthy before it ever finds its way to the price tag. That's exactly right. That's what Jack Giambalvo promised 50 years ago, and that promise has stayed intact. Great cars, no hassle, no pressure, just great cars and good people, and a gold standard in a name here in York County that people have trusted for over 50 years. Jack Giambalvo family of dealerships. Check them out today at Giambalvo Pre-Owned Vehicles.com. That's Giambalvo Pre-Owned Vehicles, Giambalvo Pre-Owned Inventory.com. That's Giambalvo Pre-Owned Inventory.com, where you can find those great pre-owned vehicles right now for you. Jack Giambalvo, they're ready to help you today. Give them a good look at Giambalvo Pre-Owned Inventory.com, and then tell them Gary Sutton proudly sent you, and get on the road. They want to be your road companion for this summer on whatever road trip you take at Jack Giambalvo family of dealerships. WOYK News Time is 8:28, and just around the corner, we've got Julie Wheeler coming up, who's the president commissioner of the York County Commissioners, and we're looking forward to hearing what's going on in York County today. Here's a guy who probably got the wrong idea. A little story I saw this morning. There are a lot of perfectly acceptable ways to go to a meeting with your probation officer. A stolen vehicle probably isn't one of them, okay? A young man in Canada was arrested, Martin, after showing up to his probation appointment in a stolen truck. I think he missed something along the way here. Officials noticed the truck and followed it to the probation office, where the offender got out and went inside. The truck circled around the parking lot for a bit. Then the man came back and hopped back in the passenger seat. Officers stopped the vehicle, which was driving carelessly, and arrested both people inside. Both will be facing charges. There aren't any details on the theft, which happened about a week earlier. However, the passenger knew it was stolen because it needed to be started by shoving a screwdriver into the ignition. So this guy shows up for the meeting with his probation officer. He's out on parole, and now he doesn't have to worry about those meetings anymore because he'll be back in the Hooskow. He may have missed a point.
I don't know how you managed to do that in the first place.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're starting your car with a screwdriver, you probably aren't in a good place. All right, I'm just saying.
On one hand, I'd argue that's a little impressive. Starting a car with a screwdriver.
Okay, all right. On the other hand is don't get caught.
Correct. Yeah.
There it is. When we come back, Julie Wheeler, President Commissioner of the York County Commissioners, joins us right here on the Gary Sutton Show as we take a look around York County to see what's going on. We got a big event coming up here on Friday and Saturday of this weekend, and Julie's going to be telling you all about that right here on WOYK, where it is 8:30. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show here on WOYK. I like some of this music you're putting out there, Martin. It's a little laid back. Martin Tate sitting in here for Mark McKenzie. As Martin doing a great job this week. Restless Tonight, is that the name of the song?
The song is One Thing by Finger 11.
One Thing by Finger 11. I'm coming across groups I've never heard of, which shows you how insulated I am from present day music reality, but it's just me. But I'm glad you're playing it for me. It's helping to stretch my horizons. I feel like a better person in the morning now. I feel like I've added more to my day. I've widened my musical visage, if you will. What a bunch of crap. I really like listening to that. I really do. And thank you.
My co-host of my college radio show, actually, similar vein, he always, at the end of our show, he says to broaden your music horizons.
That's it. That's where I'm at. And I'm looking to broaden my music horizons every single day, Martin, just not that far. But you're doing a good job of taking me out there gradually. I like how you're kind of calculated on that, it looks like to me. But Martin Tate with us here this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Great to have him aboard. And great to have you as well. And also, our president commissioner of the York County Commissioners. I saw one of her cohorts last night, Doug Hoke, out at the Life Path Ministries get-together last night. And so I can't take a walk anywhere. I don't bump into a commissioner somewhere. Good morning, Julie Wheeler. How are you?
Good morning, Gary Sutton. I'm great. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you aboard. You're usually everywhere, and it doesn't change this week. You've got some things going on this week, but we got a big event coming up here in York this weekend having to do with Miss Pennsylvania, the Miss Pennsylvania pageant, right?
You're exactly right. Actually, the participants are in town already. They were honored at the state capitol by the Women's Philanthropy Network at Penn State yesterday. They had their annual welcome at the Revolution Stadium last night. So they are in town.
Wow.
Yeah, and a little fun fact, next year will be the 100th anniversary of the Miss Pennsylvania pageant. And, I know back in the day when the program started, very different than it is now. It's definitely focused on more toward the scholarship side.
Right.
And I don't know if you're aware, it came to York back in 2019, and since then they have tripled the amount of scholarship dollars being awarded. So this weekend they'll be awarding $95,000 in scholarships. So I think that's fantastic.
That is. Yeah. That is really good. I know we talked with Victoria Vespico, who is Miss Pennsylvania, last week. She came in the studio here, and we had a nice chat with her. In fact, she even shilled a little bit for maybe sitting in sometime for me. She is a communications major in college.
That's right.
Yeah. So someday you might have the Victoria Vespico show here on WOYK. But not just yet.
Yeah.
Not just yet, Victoria. Let's slow down a little bit. But no, she's a wonderful young lady. I got a chance to meet her last year. And you talk about effervescent and just sharp, and she really is it. So she represents, I think, what Miss Pennsylvania is all about. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
So these pageants come here to York. We see like the Distinguished Young Woman pageant that Lynn Bergdahl has run. That used to be the Junior Miss. We see a pageant like this, and they seem to do very, very well. What is it about the York atmosphere that allows it to do well? Is it just that people are working harder on it here than other places? What goes on?
Well, I think it's a couple things. When you look at folks like Lynn Bergdahl and Brian Tate, they're both very committed to those organizations and ensuring they've got strong committees, they've got good volunteers. I think it's a sense of commitment to ensure that those competitions, remain on because these women are the future leaders in our community and in our nation. So I think it's great that we have those two organizations planted, right here in York County.
And it goes far beyond the old, like you mentioned earlier, Julie, the old beauty thing of the swimsuits and all that kind of stuff. It goes more to the mind and more to, what they're doing in school and that kind of thing. And I think that's a healthy kind of move for Miss Pennsylvania and some of the other beauty contests they have here in the country.
Yeah, there's a big focus also on community service.
Yes.
And that's important. That didn't exist before. So I think that's great that they have brought that forward and that these young women are serving their communities in whatever way, works for them, that they enjoy, right? Whatever nonprofit they choose to support and what initiative they want to support.
Julie, you probably are watching the budget negotiations closely. Last year, we talked about the budget and what it did here in York County. Of course, we didn't have the budget decided until November, which was ridiculous. But it looks this year, and by all sounds, it's going to be done on time. What are you hearing? What are you looking at right now? Any, backup plans, anything like that, or is it too early for that kind of thing?
I think it's too early. Let's just say I'm cautiously optimistic. I know one thing that's very important to counties across the Commonwealth is the funding for 911. Right now, the only funding stream that we have, and it's legislated, is funding from there's a tax on the cell phone bill. And I'm not a fan of taxes in no way, shape, or form, but unfortunately that's how it's been legislated to be funded. And so until that changes and we can get funding from the general fund, that's the mechanism counties have. And so counties are looking for an increase in 911 funding. I can share here for us in York, the past few years, we've had to shoulder $7 million annually to bridge the funding gap from the state in that mandated program. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Counties will see some more, not just with 911, but you and I have talked about this in the past, the lack of mental health funding that we've seen for decades. So I'm cautiously optimistic counties might see a little bit more funding in that regard as well.
Well, and we're hoping that certainly takes place. What other kind of things are going on in York County right now that you are looking around and seeing, involved in, and so forth? Obviously, you're always getting ready for the next election, which I know you just got done with the primary, but obviously, it's going to be here before we know it. The midterm election's coming up in November, right?
It is, and I think folks have a perception that once the election is done on Election Day, the work stops, but it doesn't. We don't actually close out on an election until we do our final certification, which is usually 2 to 3 weeks after, Election Day. So the team is, in the throes of, preparing for the election in the fall. One thing we do have coming up next week, and it's part of our initiative on celebrating our country's 250th anniversary. So if you recall, last year in November, we had an unveiling of 6 fiberglass bells here in our community that were designed by local artists. We actually now have a 7th one that we'll add to the fleet, so to speak. But we are spreading those dedications out one a month between June and November, although 2 in November because December we're a little worried about the cold weather. So we start and kick off our first dedication on Monday, the 22nd, and that will be a bell that was designed by our local artist, April Chambliss, and it's called We the People, We Were Here, and that will be down at the New Freedom train station.
Wow.
On the rail trail stop. So it's open to the public, 2 p.m., and for those who want to get a sneak peek, I'll say the bell's already there with its plaque, and we're looking forward to dedicating that on Monday. And as I said, the remaining 6 will be done once a month through the rest of the year.
And you said Ophelia designed that one?
She did. It's called We the People, We Were Here. And she'll be there, and she'll talk a little bit about what inspired her to paint the bell, and we'll hear a little bit from our friend and colleague, Kelly Gibson, at the Cultural Alliance. Without her partnership, I don't think we would have all of these artists that have come forward and 7 bells in our community.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing when you look around right now at the history that we have here in York. And we talk about it all the time. I talk about it with Jim McClure. I've talked about it with you before and others, that York has so much to bring people here, especially during the summertime when just if you walk around here at nighttime, all the various things that are happening, and then you look around it during the day, all of the historical moments that we've had here in this town. And I think sometimes it gets put on witness protection by people outside of the area. I think we know what it's all about, but I think we take it for granted sometimes, Julie.
I don't disagree with you there. I will just put a little plug out there to the community that's listening that we raised the money for these bells from the philanthropic community, so no county taxpayer dollars were used for the creation of these bells. And I think that speaks to exactly what you mentioned. We have a great community here in York, and folks coming together and want to make this a special place to live, work, and play.
And we hope people will continue to find those places and deal with those, because they are absolutely fantastic. Julie, always good talking to you. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us here on a Wednesday morning. We look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thanks, Gary. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Be safe. Julie Wheeler, President Commissioner of the York County Commissioners, right here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. Saw Doug Hoke last night out at the Life Path Ministries. Doug, one of our other commissioners, and it's good to see them around at some of the different events that are happening all over the place. Do want to remind you, this afternoon at 4 p.m., they are having a sale out at Thomasville Country Auction, and what a sale it will be. They've got a John Deere tractor, snowblower, and mowers, and tools, and safe. They've got a safe out there. They've got tool chests, deer antlers. Who doesn't need those? And new washer. They got a John Deere E100 lawn tractor, which is in excellent shape, by the way. A white snowblower, roll-around tool chest, union machinist chest, hand and power hand tools, pliers, wrenches, ratchets, chisels, hammers, and sockets. They've got vice grips, extension cords, roll-around metal cart, even have golf balls and golf clubs, fishing rods and reels, vests, all kinds of things like that at this sale this afternoon at Thomasville Country Auction. It all starts at 4 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, maybe it's time for you to have a sale. Maybe you have an estate to settle. Maybe you're moving. Maybe you're downsizing. I don't know what your situation is, but I'll tell you what, I do know this, that Jack and Cheryl Hooks are the ones to handle it. They are the professional auctioneers of York County, and they are ready to make your sale or sales a reality today. Why don't you give them a call at 717-764-5403 and let them go out to your home, answer all the questions you have. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of them, like I did when I had an estate sale to settle, and then let them help you to organize that sale and do what they do well. They've been doing it for over 40 years. And if it comes to moving the items from your house to their auction house, they can help you with that. When it comes to setting up the sale or sales that best benefit you, they can do that. They will do all that for you and put money in your pocket, and the sense of satisfaction knowing that your items are going somewhere where people are going to care about them. Jack and Cheryl Hooks at Thomasville Country Auction are ready to help you today. And if you're selling your real estate, Cheryl can do that for you and save you lots and lots of money. So what are you waiting for? Call Jack and Cheryl Hooks today. They're good friends of mine. Tell them Gary Sutton told you to call at 717-764-5403, or head on out there at 4 p.m. today for the big sale. It's at Thomasville Country Auction, Route 30 West at the railroad tracks in Thomasville. WOYK News Time, 8:46. back. The Gary Sutton Show here on WOYK. What is this music here now coming back?
This is Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush, which reached number 1 on the charts for the first time after being released in, let me pull up the note, 1985.
Running Up That Hill. Is the name of the song.
It hit number 1 on the UK chart for the first time in 2022.
Very appropriate for today because in 1775, on this date, 251 years ago, the Revolutionary War's Battle of Bunker Hill took place, and it was fought near Boston. Now, actually, most of the battle was fought on Breed's Hill, so it was a misnomer, but Bunker Hill fit in well to the poem, so they used Bunker Hill instead. Americans were led by Colonel William Prescott, who told the troops to, you remember the statement? Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. That was it. Americans actually lost the battle. They had to retreat, but eventually they trapped the British in Boston, and they brought in Ethan Allen? That brought in cannons that surrounded the city during that time, and the British eventually left there and went to New York City, where they started the campaign and were chasing Washington across the countryside there for a while before eventually losing the war. Schoolhouse Rock fans will remember that line from the shot heard round the world. There you go. Anyway, that was 251 years ago today, so charging up Bunker Hill, there you go. Advance up the hill, right? 164 years ago, in 1862, geniuses W.H. Fancher and C.M. French received a patent for a marvelous invention, the combined plow and gun. Yeah, the plow and gun. And then 141 years ago, in 1885, the Statue of Liberty arrived in New York City. Now, it was a gift from France. A lot of us know that. But, you talk about something more iconic than the Statue of Liberty here in the United States, you'd be hard-pressed to do it, Martin. The statue's sculptor gave it the name La Liberté éclairant le monde. Liberty enlightening the world is the actual official name for the Statue of Liberty, but it's located on Liberty Island in New York Harbor. The Statue of Liberty was officially dedicated on October 28th of 1886. And it was constructed from 1875 to 1884 in France, disassembled, shipped to New York in 1885, where it was assembled atop its pedestal. Took like 4 months to put it back together again. The sculptor is Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. The architect was Richard Morris Hunt. The engineer, Eiffel and Company. Ever hear of them? The Eiffel Tower? Yeah. And the engineer on the pedestal was General Charles P. Strong. The statue stands 151 feet, 1 inch, 46.05 millimeters, or is it millimeters? Or meters high. And the pedestal is 154 feet, total of 305 feet. It is a very impressive statue. So from the ground, visitors climb 377 steps to reach the crown of the Statue of Liberty. If you've ever been up in there, it's really kind of impressive to see it. Now, the statue has been estimated to weigh 560,000 pounds. 560,000 pounds, though she has gone on a diet recently with Ozempic, and it's, no, I'm kidding, of which 179,200 pounds are actually copper. The pedestal weighs approximately 52 million pounds. So combined, the statue and pedestal may have cost between $300,000 to $600,000 to make, which today, when they were constructed, roughly 17 to 22 million today. So that gives you an idea of just how impressive this thing is. The exterior is made of copper. The copper turned green naturally due to oxidation. Around 3.8 million people per year visit the Statue of Liberty. And Lady Liberty is holding a torch in her right hand, representing enlightenment. In her left hand, she cradles a tablet reading July 4th, and then basically 1776. They do that in Roman numerals, a reference to the Declaration of Independence. Here's something you don't normally see at the Statue of Liberty, though, Martin. Broken shackles and chains lie at her feet, symbolizing the abolition of slavery. Her right foot is raised to show that she carries the torch forward, representing enlightenment and freedom. And, of course, the quotes that are on there are used by a lot of people. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door, quote unquote. Emma Lazarus wrote these words in a poem called The New Colossus on November 2nd of 1883 as part of a fundraising campaign for the statue's construction. The sonnet is commemorated in a plaque in the statue's pedestal. And there you have it. So a little bit about the Statue of Liberty, which on this date was constructed and sent here to the United States. Took 4 months to reassemble out of 351 boxes. They had to actually assemble it in France, deassemble it, and then reassemble it here in the country. And that's not one where you want any leftover parts, right? You know how guys are always putting stuff together. You say, hey, look, I got a couple screws. No, you didn't want that.
I can use this on the next project.
There it is. 54 years ago in 1972, Richard Nixon's downfall began when 5 quote-unquote plumbers were arrested for breaking into the Democratic National headquarters in the Watergate Hotel. We're trying to cheat on behalf of Nixon. Didn't really have to because he was going to win that election hands down anyway. But there you go. 43 years ago in 1983, Superman 3 was released. That's the only one starring Richard Pryor where Christopher Reeves fights an evil version of himself. Yeah. Let's see, 37 years ago in 1989, retired Oakland Raiders player John Matuzak died of heart failure at the age of 38. Painkillers and cocaine were found in his system. Your kids might have known him as Sloth in the Goonies. But John Matuzak, and this started kind of an examination of football and the negative impact that it had on athletes playing that sport. And we started to look at that a little bit more carefully in terms of what it did to the brain and maybe more safety features on helmets and things like that, ways in which we can make the game safer. It is a collision sport after all. And finally, 32 years ago in 1994, the O.J. Simpson car chase. 95 million Americans watched the 8-hour police chase of O.J. Simpson. He then threatened suicide and refused to leave the white Ford Bronco when it arrived at his home in Brentwood, California. This was one of the most riveting, ridiculous, thoughtful 8 hours that you might have had, where we had helicopters following the Bronco. O.J. Simpson had been accused of killing his wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and also her companion, Ron Goldman, at their home. And it was all found, to watch him. And, of course, driving the car was one of his former teammates, Al Cowlings, whose birthday was yesterday. He was 79 yesterday. Al Cowlings is driving it. Meanwhile, O.J. is in this car with a gun pointed to his head. And he eventually drives home. Meanwhile, people are making placards, and for O.J., you got police following him all the way back to Brentwood to his home. He eventually gets out of his car, goes to his house. Eventually, they arrest him, and he's taken to prison. And then the O.J. trial followed. So there you go. Amazing stuff. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Got Revs baseball coming up tonight here at 6:10 on WOYK, 6:30 first pitch. We'll see you tomorrow, all here on WOYK, where it is 9 o'clock.